Hello everyone, this is Remleiz from 40k Theories, and welcome to this newest episode of Adeptus Podcastus. Joining me as always is Michael from Tactica Imperialis.
Hello everyone.
And joining us this week as our very special guest is a man who, quite frankly, needs no introduction, but will tell you to put on two thin coats. We have none other than Duncan Rhodes this week.
Hi everybody, hello, how you all doing?
So thank you for joining us for this episode. It's been quite a treat, actually.
Yeah, there was Remleiz messaged me saying that he was going to inquire, and my jaw just dropped. I was like, "Oh flip, we might actually get Duncan." And I say this as someone who
first to ask.
Yeah, and I say this as someone who is I don't paint two thin coats. I'm a very bad and boring and basic painter, but even I was a little bit like, "Oh, right, we've actually got Duncan."
Oh, don't worry about it. I must admit, I find it quite odd people when they talk about me in that way, because I am just me, right? So, of course, if someone wants to send a message to me, then as long as I'm able to, I can get a bit overwhelmed with these private messages on Twitter, but, I'll chat to anybody. If someone's willing to put the time in to want to talk to me, then the least I can do is say hello back to them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I don't know if it was ever intended for you to be the face of Games Workshop for about 4 years, and then ascend to a status above God in living meme, but it happened.
I think that's quite a statement.
In the social media world, being a meme is above being a god. Let's be fair.
Yeah, that's a very strange side effect of it. No, none was expected. When it first started, the whole point was basically. My friend Roger, he had an idea of these things and was pushing for it for a while. And there was that How to Paint DVD, where it came with the book. And he wanted to kind of hone the idea. And because I had the experience from doing that, he got me in to help out with it. And it all just kind of sort of birthed from there, really. The facing of things, that just sort of happened. Because I really thought at the time, because Games Workshop was putting out no kind of names at the time, and I was for a little while I was the only one, so I kind of was always a bit concerned that I'd become the locus of people being angry at the company. But it was the complete opposite. It was very unexpected but wonderful. It really is a wonderful community. I do feel like I've been very, very lucky.
I think that's fair, though. I think a few years before, that might have been the side effect, because there was a time where there was some bitterness, particularly around the time of the end times and the beginning of Age of Sigmar, when fantasy died. I think there was that sort of, I don't want to say salt mine, because then I'm disrespecting the people who were genuinely annoyed, but I think there was a sense of being annoyed at GW was the way things were. But the company, at least from our perspective, changed. It became a lot more transparent. It became a lot more active. And having a face of the company who wasn't just anonymous boardroom dictating what the rules are, I think really probably helped with that, because you weren't a law writer, so we couldn't get mad at you for that. You weren't a game designer, so no one could get mad at you for that. You just painted, and you painted really well, so no one could get mad.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it was like just the perfect combination of things.
I'm just speculating. I'm sure the comments will be much more clear on this than I am.
Like I say, I just kind of feel very lucky about it. But really, like the core of it was, I just wanted to help people. I wanted to unlock the hobby, was kind of how Roger and I talked about it, because I always found growing up that there could be a bit of an elitism when it comes to painting. So I've always, in retail, I always enjoyed showing people how to do things. And this was just kind of a bigger platform for doing that. So that's really what all the core of it was. Or any fame out of it was completely unintentional, and certainly not the thing I desired from it.
That's very fair.
It's very odd, but wonderful at the same time. It really is. I've been hearing so many stories about people who have been able to enjoy their hobby more because of what we were getting up to, and that's really what makes that. That's why we did it. That's why we would go into work each day.
Though I'm sure the inevitable question that would have come out had circumstances been different 6 months ago is what you thought of because everyone thought when Contrast came out, like, this is the most anti-Duncan thing imaginable. It's one thick coat and you're done. Duncan is having a meltdown.
That was unexpected. So you saw the marketing things of finally one thick coat, right? That was so that's a very clever kind of like marketing thing. It's fun because it's engaging. It's like it's awareness, So it's building upon the back of the meme, which was a kind of an unintentional thing. It's just literal advice of this is what you do to use these products and these items and stuff. And when people use it like that, they realise that that is true. So that's the odd thing that's sticking about the meme is actually great because it is like honest to God advice on how to do it. With the contrast paints, I'm surprised people thought that I'd hate them as that much. Like I was that attached to. This is how you do it and never change, because things change all the time. So what contrast is an incredibly useful tool that allows you to access all these different effects and abilities and techniques, and it makes painting miniatures in particular ways very, very easy. So it's a fantastic thing for that. I'm quite surprised that people thought that I'd hate it because it goes against a meme, which I didn't intend.
I don't think it was if they were genuinely being serious about you hating it. I think it's just because you were so deeply ingrained with the whole concept of two thin coats kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's just what you do. That's how you use like layers and base paints. It's just how you get the best effect out of them. But then, weirdly, with some contrast paints, it actually works best if you do apply two coats of them. So there you go.
Yeah, and the other time I remember the whole Duncan's having a meltdown was Chaos Knights. Yes. They properly jumped on you for that one.
Yeah, well, the Knight obsession thing, that like it was kind of a spur of my Bretonian obsession. I like all things knightly, and Imperial Knights, I think, when they first came out, the first book was something very special because for a brand new faction, well, not brand new, but something that hadn't been in the lore in this rendition of it, to have that much depth to it, I felt like it was something real and like a culture you could believe in. I was completely absorbed with it, and the fact it was about knights was just the icing on the cake for me. And it became funny to get angry whenever people would suggest that they could be anything less than perfect. And I had a lot of fun playing with people really about that. So I really enjoyed the sudden embracing of this and the idea that Chaos Knights are like making me freak out and get super angry and stuff. I mean, the model's great, right? I really like the Renegade Knight. It's a beautiful miniature. The subtle details.
Model of the year, I think.
Oh yeah, and a well-deserved winner. It's an absolutely fantastic miniature, and I did buy one before I left. But I did it through mail order, so I wouldn't have to go through the process of buying it at the till. So,
oh god, yeah! You might just walk up to the Warhammer World till carrying a Chaos Knight, and everyone would be like,
exactly.
"What?"
On a gaming night, yeah. But I think that aspect of the lore is again really cool because it ties back to the Horus Heresy and the idea of what could turn these noble warriors into something so evil. It is the same sort of tragedy as Space Marines to me. That's so I really like it for that. But playing up to the anger about it is just like a really fun way of engaging people. I think it just entertains me. I don't really hate them, not really. Well, a little bit, but not really.
Yeah, very, very, very fair. Right. There's a lot of news to get through, so I'm going to try and crunch through this as quickly as I can. So, New Year's Open Day. We talked about this very briefly because on the last show, because the banner head got leaked, but there was more there than we were expecting. So, Commander Shadow Sun has a miniature. It looks absolutely lovely. I don't know why it's got 4 arms, but there we go.
Something Gene Stealer. There you go.
Something Gene Stealer. We also got, a few days later, a Psychic Awakening short story for Psychic Awakening 5, which shows Shadow Sun effectively surrendering the Startide Nexus to the Death Guard and relying on the tower on the other side to hold them back, which, well, we'll need to see what Psychic Awakening 5 actually is about before we make any prejudgments, but that's really interesting. It's been a sticking point ever since the Tower Codex came out, like 18 months ago. Can they hold the Startide Nexus? The answer apparently is no.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a bit hard to hold, that, especially when you got Typhus turning up with pretty much every single Death Guard, Marine under his command, going, "Here we come and nick your Startide Nexus," kind of thing. Because I don't care how skilled or short your Fire Warrior is, you're going to have a hard time putting a Plague Marine down.
And then most of the battles are in space, so try putting a Plague ship down.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if the Terminus S shows up.
Yeah, I don't think the endurance itself is there in Mortarion. I think carrying 2 Primarchs in a row would be a bit much.
I think it's just Typhus's forces that are turning up for this, if I recall correctly.
That would make sense as well, since Typhus does not answer to Mortarion at all. We then got a bunch of miniatures for the Sisters of Battle, Retributors, Zephyrim, which are kind of a different version of Seraphim, but with swords, and I think they look absolutely gorgeous. Arco-Flagellants, Penitent Engines, another look, and the Battle Sanctum Terrain piece. They're now on.
That's gorgeous.
It really is, and it's actually got rules as well. So they're on pre-order at the moment. I do hear they're a little. I haven't looked myself, but I've heard they are slightly too much money for sense. Like the Retributors, I think, are like 32 quid for 5. So I hear, which is a lot for 5 miniatures. But here we are. We got the Ogre/Noblar/Beastcore Raiders Warband for Beastgrave. I don't play it, but it's great to see. Second Ogre miniature for the Age of Sigmar. Looks lovely. And we also got Wrath of the Everchosen, an Age of Sigmar, basically seemingly to be a pseudo-Vigilus book, pitting the Slayers of Darkness against the Ossiarch Bone Reapers in the invasion of the 8 points, which the Ossiarch really need to win because they've just been introduced, but you can't job out Archaon because he's Archaon, so who the heck is going to win that? I don't know. Probably.
Some of the Aurochs just turn up and kick everyone's ass. There you go.
Probably. I think the Ossiarch will win the book, and then 6 weeks later, Archaon will just show up and beat them back. So the Ossiarch get the big win, but then lose for the sake of the plot. And then the final thing we got, and I'll talk about this more later, is Pointy Elves. Teclis is back, and we'll come back to that later.
Yeah, it's the guy who blew up the Warhammer world for no reason.
No, that was the Chaos Gods. Teclis would have saved it if it weren't for blimmin' Manfred von Carstein, as far as I understand it anyway.
I'm just being facetious here.
I know. The Horus Heresy 30k miniatures range has also been blessed with some absolutely beautiful Dark Angels Terminators. Those
the
Circle Knight Cenobium.
Yes, those, yeah. I'm actually very impressed with how those look, especially considering the Dark Angels miniatures, who tend to be a bit more... I know... Yeah. Sorry, Dark Angels players.
Yeah, but compare them to like the Blood Angels Terminators, which were like, follow that. They did. They're not as good as the Blood Angels Terminators, but still, they followed it.
Speaking of Blood Angels, they've also had their Destroyers released today as well.
Yeah, what are they called?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but they've been quite
the Angels
from what I've
Tears.
seen.
There we go.
That's it, yeah.
With the double Volkite Serpenta, or they can even have jump packs and grenade launchers.
I've seen some people who are really praising how these look, and some people saying, wow, these are ugly. It's been quite divisive from what I've seen.
Yeah, I don't like the helmets, personally. I think they look too much like death masks, but not in the angelic way, like Dante's does. They're not like angelic in the slightest. They're just Necrons. They're Necron faces. Literally, you've just sawn off a Necron's face and planked it on a Space Marine helmet. It's what it looks like to me.
Ah, so that's where Sanguinius got from. He got from the Silent King from that short story.
We'll come to the Silent King later.
Oh, yes.
We'll get there. The other thing for Heresy was the Architor Bombard is on pre-order at the moment.
Oh, that thing is adorable. It is adorable. It's so small and squished and just got... Oh, I just want to cuddle it.
Yeah. Strength 7, AP3, Ordnance Last, Rocket Salvo with a 5 or 7 inch pie plate that does like D6 plus 4 hits. It has limited ammo. It's AP3. It's got building damage. It's got Sunder, which I don't remember what that rule is. I'm sure someone who plays Heresy will tell me what Sunder does. Yeah. Ow. It's a baby Manticore.
So whenever someone says Sunder, I'm just automatically reminded of IDW Comics Transformers series, with that guy Sunder, who is like the most legitimately terrifying thing I've ever seen in the comic.
Sorry, no, you've lost me.
I'll send you a picture later if you don't mind having nightmares.
It's fine. I work with children now at schools, so I think I can cope. Anyway, the only other bit of lore I want to talk about at any length was one of the things sort of hidden away in one of the Psychic Awakening 4 articles, because Psychic Awakening 4 is out tomorrow at the date of recording, I think, because it's been on pre-order. I think it's out tomorrow. And it talks about Magnus's plan, the Ritual of the Damned itself. And it seems to imply that Magnus is doing this in order to do what the Emperor wanted to do, i.e. ascend humanity to an entirely psychic race, though obviously this case in service of chaos rather than, the Imperial Truth. That's the implication, but we're not sure if that's correct. Sunder allows you to reroll armor pens versus vehicles. Fab. So yeah, that was the one bit of lore that I did stumble across that I think is cool, but I don't know if that's going to really go anywhere.
I noticed the Regimental Standard put out their thing saying, realize your full potential. Do you feel that all is dust? Look for this symbol. I was like, hang on a moment.
That's not the Regimental Standard.
Don't recall too many Guardsmen regiments with scarabs.
No, the month. Which month was it where the Orcs took over the Regimental Standard?
October.
I remember that was loads of fun. That was.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I think I've just blasted through all the news that isn't Teclis and the Silent King.
Sons of the Selenar limited edition went on pre-order last week. Dropped out of nowhere, which a whole bunch of people were very angry about.
I'm assuming it's now gone.
It sold out within the hour.
Yeah, there's a surprise.
And literally, the only reason I managed to get a copy is because someone in my Discord basically said, hey, this is available in the New Zealand store. I was like, what? But they let me know about 1 o'clock in the morning. It's like, oh, so I need to get up and pre-order this then. Okay.
Yeah, you really had to be on the ball to get Sons of the Selenar, it seems.
Oh, yeah.
They also talked a little bit about the rules changes that are coming for the Grey Knights, Thousand Sons of the Dark Angels. The Grey Knights hopefully are going to be lifted from the bin, because, let's be fair, they were mostly in the bin. So they've now got their own unique chapter tactics called Tides, which means that they can sort of shift between them using psychic powers to make their smite better, to give themselves all free cover, and basically make them into Raven Guard. One that gives them +1 strength and damage for their psi weapons, one that gives them rerolls with their nemesis weapons, and so on and so forth. They can even give themselves command points using psychic powers, and a few other things. So hopefully Grey Knights are out of the bin. But the Thousand Sons are far more interesting because they got the Prosperine cults back. Ish. Ish, but they did.
Care to elaborate?
Yes. So, if I just find the article. So, each of your detachments can be dedicated to one of the 9. Yes, there's now 9. There used to be 5. There's now 9 because each cults of the Thousand Sons. They're rooted in the Legion, going back, and they give you extra powers, extra traits, extra relics. So, for example, there's the Cult of Time, which gives you a psychic power that allows you to basically rewind time and resurrect one of your models in the unit. Basically, it's a resurrection power by rewinding time. If only Ahriman knew that spell. Then you've yeah. Then you've got the Cult of Duplicity, which lets you redeploy your army at the start of the game, or the Cult of Change, which gives you a relic that allows you to change the result of a psychic test, either from a 1 to a 6 dice roll if it's your army, or a 6 to a 1 if it's your opponent's army, which is a real screw you when it comes to psychic.
And then there's the Cult of Personality, which makes you the best in the world.
I should have seen that one coming. Well played. Well played. But yes, the Thousand Sons have got a lot more flavour. Hopefully the Grey Knights out of the bin, and the Dark Angels, I honestly, the character's got a D3 damage power sword that gets to reroll wounds and damage against psychers. They've got chapter tactics now, and a thing called Relentless Hunt for the Devastator Doctrine, meaning that their assault, pistol, and heavy and rapid fire weapons all gain range, which means that, say, Flamers now have a 12-inch. It's like a 12-inch range, meaning that Flamers can now hit from further away on Overwatch, and heavy bolters now have a 42-inch range. Bolters are now bolt rifles, essentially, and bolt rifles are now baby heavy bolters, whilst you have the Devastator Doctrine on, which is quite terrifying. Oof. That's only range. It doesn't give them any more power, it just gives them more range. They've given, like, Ravenwing and Deathwing have got their own unique warlord traits now, which is kind of interesting. They talk about this thing called the Key of Acrobale, which unlocks a hidden sanctum in the rock that also allows you to get +1 strength and attacks, which is weird. And there's a stratagem to allow you to set up Deathwing near to Ravenwing for free, essentially. So far less interesting than the other two, but that's the Dark Angels for you. Sorry.
Burn.
And they're still more interesting than White Scars.
Sadly accurate. Sadly accurate.
What side of the fence do you guys fall on the Dark Angel versus Space Wolf thing?
I have 1,000 Suns players, so I hate the Space Wolves by default.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Easy.
I'm 30k 1,000 Suns. 40k 1,000 Suns I can take all. 30k 1,000 Suns. I've always been a massive fan of Magnus back then. So that's the character, the Legion I gravitated toward, and thus I must not like the Space Wolves by extension.
Mm-hmm. I must point out that Magnus did everything wrong.
Ooh.
By accident. Yeah, Rem's a Night Lord.
Yep.
So, yes, we'll quickly gloss over that before we get back to another Conrad Kurz rant. We'll spare that one. Yeah, I don't know if you... I know you talk a lot about your, obviously, Knights for 40k and probably 30k as well. Is there a particular Primarch that you sort of fall in line behind?
So I think, it depends on what state we're looking at here, because I really like Horus in those initial books.
Ah.
Yeah. I think those initial books do a really good job of showing him as a very charismatic leader, the kind of person you'd be behind. I think it's interesting. I didn't really notice the first time I read it. Since times rereading it, it's interesting watching how he's kind of putting all the pieces in place to come off as looking really good. And it installs this really fierce loyalty in everybody. I think it's just interesting seeing him do that. It's like a politician, master politician. But he just seemed really likable, and it really stuck with me the first time you actually saw a Primarch. Like it's the first time you see these characters written about. You've heard about them for years and years and years, and then here's one, and he turns out to be like a really cool dude,
and suddenly he's the bad guy.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting watching him turn bad. So I think that's really tragic. I hope as the Heresy books come to an end, like in all the classic stories about when the two of them are fighting, there's like a moment where he reverts back to actual.
I believe that's how the story goes. Is that right? Let me get this straight in my head. Mm-hmm. Horus absolutely murderizes the Emperor, who's apparently holding back.
Mm-hmm.
Then Alanius Pius / somebody else jumps in the way, thus illuminating the Emperor to how bad Horus has got.
Mm-hmm.
So the Emperor goes all out on him and basically blasts the chaos out of him. That's a bad way of phrasing it, but the Chaos Gods realize, bleep, we're boned, flee. Thus Horus realizes, oh my god, that's what that was me. Begs the Emperor to kill him, so the Emperor kills him. But the Emperor then basically dies anyway, and Dawn shows up and diddly. That's how I think it goes, but they may change that slightly with the final writing of whoever writes Siege of Terra 8.
Oh, yeah, these things they've certainly been fluid, and as I understand it, the way to look at the Heresy books is like it's an interpretation of the story.
Rogal Dawn is Schrödinger's Primarch, as Rem quite likes to say.
Considering there's one book that says he's dead, alive, missing, was never found, and was found all within a span of 2 pages. Yeah.
But yeah, I really like Horus in those early books. So probably him. It's why I kept doing Sons of Horus armies, actually. But as things pan out and the Heresy continues, I don't really know who I'd pick, to be honest with you. It'd definitely be one of the goodies, I suppose. That's kind of how I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably one of the
Dawn's an
Primarchs.
interesting character. I'd like to see Dawn in a sort of relaxed, conversational manner. I'm sure he's not that strict all the time. There's got to be times, when he's in pajamas and slippers, he's acting normal.
Alpha, get on it.
I'd read that a book.
Yeah. I think one of the Primarchs that I went into the Heresy expecting to hate, but ended up really coming out liking, and I think this was obviously by design, was Angron.
Yes.
For a long time, I had no intention of liking Angron, and then I read his backstory about New Seria and everything that was done on New Seria, and then everything that Erebus did and Lorgar did, because screw the word bearers, I don't care. You can try and redeem Lorgar all you like. I don't care. Shove off. Angron goes.
Try and redeem Lorgar at this point.
They tried with Bearer of the Word. They tried.
I was redeeming him before he was even found, so all that proved was that Lorgar had a rough upbringing, and Corferon was an even worse dad than the Emperor.
I mean, accurate.
Somehow.
I mean, doubly accurate. But yeah, Angron went from super angry rage boy to, oh my goodness, you poor, poor thing.
Yes. Yeah, there's a really sad moment, isn't there, where you sort of see how hurt he is. Not long before he goes full in evil. But then you do sort of end up sympathizing. I think there's no masterful job really in writing his character and developing him. And Anthony Bolden's done such a wonderful job at that.
Absolutely, can't argue with that. Right, Rem, do we go Silent King or can I talk about Teclis now?
If you want to talk about Teclis, go for it.
Right. I'm looking forward to this. So, many of you will be quite aware that in Age of Sigmar, I'm a massive elves. I'm playing elves since it was fantasy. I've got a Daughters of Cain army, I've got an Deepkin army, I've got an Order Serpentis army, I've got a Darkling Comans army. I have all of the elves in the freaking world. And now, Teclis is back. Teclis, the god of light, formerly of Warhammer Fantasy, tried to save the old world, failed, made the Incarnates, which actually nearly worked, but, didn't. He's now a god. He made the Idoneth, bad idea. Tried to kill them. Tyrion stopped him because Tyrion's around and he's blind. And he's now back with pointy elves, which may or may not be a High Elves reboot, and maybe something else entirely involving light demons whilst blending them with the High Elf style. Because the entire High Elf range got retired, and yet we're now getting pointy elves back. Also, they've shown some artwork of his... Sorry, go on.
It got retired, but wasn't there an AOS star box a while back that was literally High Elves versus Skaven?
It was the Island of Blood reboxed.
Yeah.
Fire of Dawn. Yeah, that came out for a while, but that was all of it was... Swifthawk agents, as it was at the time. They weren't High Elves, they were Swifthawk agents because of the way they rearranged the Elven factions. Then at Cities of Sigmar in September time, a huge amount of old miniatures got culled and went by the wayside. So almost the entire High Elf range, a chunk of the Dark Elf range, a chunk of the Empire range, a chunk of the Dwarven range, a bunch of stuff just went. It was retired, and everything that survived became the Cities of Sigmar. And we thought, right, okay, they're done. You can play them in Warhammer Legends, but they're done now. And now we've got these pointy elves, and the trailer for them talks about the classic High Elf miniatures and all of who they used to be. So they're clearly going back to that aesthetic of the pointy elves with the big hats and all of that stuff. And Teclis has a really big hat. So is this a High Elves reboot? Are they just going to throw the old line back out there? In which is why retire it? So there's just a few questions up in the air, but we won't have long to wait. Tomorrow, after this episode releases, Thursday evening, is the LVO Studio preview. Thursday evening, Friday morning. Friday morning for us, Thursday evening for the US crowd. Is the LVO Studio preview, where they're going to do a full reveal of Teclis, the miniature, and a lot of his faction. But they have shown the artwork for Teclis and the silhouette of his miniature. And oh my wow, yes, want much.
It's really fun hearing how excited you are about it. It really is.
Well, I played High Elves for years. I was very much an Eltharion the Grim, Alithanar type of back then.
Yes.
But when Sigmar happened, the elves got nothing for years. And then finally we got Daughters of Cain, and I already had some witch elves because I went through a dark elves phase at the start of Sigmar. Had some witch elves. All of a sudden, we've got snake archers and harpies, and what is this Titanic monster thing? And suddenly, it's the best miniature of the year. Screw you, Mortarion. It was Marathi. And boom. And then 2 months later, and sorry, Jeremy Vitok, I'm going to call this out now. Wow, what a writing job. And then we get the Ideneth Deepkin, and we had elves that live underwater on eels and sharks and doom turtles and dudes with cloaks made out of waves, and also the most obnoxious hat you've ever seen. Thank you, Volturnus, for that back banner. It just blew my mind.
And Shanktopus.
And Shanktopus, yes. And they started sprinkling in this backstory of what was going on with the elves. I needed to know what was going on with Malerion, Tyrion, and Teclis right then and there. And then we got nothing for now, nearly 2 years, and suddenly, boom, Teclis. Yes.
Just on the cusp of some brand new lore.
Oh, yes. And it's actually fitting that Teclis is back, because in Sigmar, very rarely do the gods show up, but the only gods that have shown up are Alariel, who's the god of life, Nagash, god of death, Archaon, basically a god but not a god, Marathi, elf, demigoddess, effectively. The elven god showing up makes sense, but Tyrion can't show up because he's now blind. So, yeah, let's have Teclis back. Staff of Hoeth, Blade of Hoeth, Staff of Liliath, wrong way round.
In fairness, aren't a whole bunch of the Ideneth blind?
The Namati are blind, yes. They are either struck blind or born blind, but they then sense things by reading the currents of the ether sea, so it's like they can see.
So it's possible that Tyrion could do something, so I mean, he is a god.
I mean, that's not to say he is not able to perceive the world, but why risk it, I guess?
He could be like Daredevil, you know?
Also, bear in mind, though, in the end times, the last time we saw Tyrion fighting, he had the Widowmaker, and he was the avatar of Cain, and he went full blood rage mode. So maybe he's like, actually, I'm going to sit this one out.
For now.
And the last time he was actually working with Marathi against Malekith. So the end times were weird for the elves. They were really weird.
Malekith says, like, hey guys, turns out I'm the Phoenix King all along. Turns out I'm the only Phoenix King, apparently.
Yeah, the Eternity King, who then basically marries Alariel, who is not a god yet. Because she's the Ever Queen, he's the Phoenix Eternity King. Teclis is playing both sides. You've got Tyrion and Marathi working together. The elves were just in a right old pickle. And then the Vortex War happened, and Teclis had to unleash the winds of magic out of the Vortex to create the Incarnates, lest they go completely berserk. Maybe that's why Tyrion's sitting it out. I hope we find out in whatever the Pointy Elves book is called comes out or is revealed.
It'd be Battle Tome Pointy Elves.
To be honest, the community would absolutely go for that, though I think we're going to get something a little bit higher in terms of high fantasy than that.
I'm sure the Pointy Elf name is
high something.
These things often do. It's like Boaty McBoneface, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's like some people call them the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and then you have Oculus.
Who calls them the Bone Daddies?
Quite. Okay, I'm done on Teclis now.
It's really fun to hearing how excited you are. It really is. I would like you to record yourself in the.
It's interesting because this was started out as a 40k show because Rem never really wasn't much of a gamer and didn't really have Sigmar on his radar, and I wasn't really playing Sigmar at the time either. But I've really to the point of probably annoying the comments, become a massive advocate for Sigmar, just in terms of, if you're fed up with the way 40k plays, just go and play it. If you want a change of pace in the lore, go read it. If you want the best designed miniatures I think G-Dubs has ever made, with the Ideneth, the Daughters, the Ossiarch, and so on.
Let's not forget the carriage run. I love their ships.
Oh god, yeah! I just picked up their new battle tome for lore purposes, and yeah, they are gorgeous.
I don't get mine yet. I must go and get it.
Yeah, one of my favourite lines in there is they amended the current code to say anyone that can't down a pint may not be worked with, just to stop them working with the undead.
And then they find out, Flesh Eater Ghoul can just, down a pint. It's like, hey.
Yes. But anyway, obligatory Teclis ramble / hype fest is concluded. I've had my piece now. I'm happy.
So,
I don't think you are. I think you're going to be thinking about Teclis the rest of the show.
Oh my.
Probably, but when LVO rolls around, I'm probably going to make just a reaction video where I'm going to sit there for 20 minutes talking about Teclis. Oh, flip, we go for 20 minutes. Right, skim through everything else. I'm done. Right, there we go. Upload.
In fairness, Michael, I was pretty much the same way, when, that trailer for, Grendel Grendelson dropped on Warhammer TV. I was just like, it's a squat!
Squats. Yeah. Yeah, because wasn't it the trailer with all the clocks on the wall of plastic sisters, plastic thunderhawks?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, I remember that one. I think it's quite a fun thing that, Games Workshop is very aware of the internet, as you can see nowadays. And they're aware of all these wants for all these things. I think if I've learned anything in the time there, is that sooner or later the thing that is the dream thing is going to happen. I remember that was the case for things like Knights and, Plastic Sisters and Adeptus Mechanicus as an army and all things. So all the hopes and things, I'm sure one day, these things will happen.
Yeah, the one fact I think that we haven't seen is Dark Mech.
So you're saying that there's a chance that one day we might actually get a Codex Zotes?
I would never say never. Even if a manager said with Codex Zotes.
I mean, we're going to surely get Codex Crute at some point.
I think that would be really fun. I think doing a Crute army would be loads of fun.
I mean, they're in Kill Team now, so please do.
Do a Crew Kill Team, can't you? Yeah. And I think they're very thematic for that as well. You can imagine a little band of them sort of prowling around and trying to pick off, who they view as weak targets, who turn out not to be weak targets.
Yeah, I had a game, one of my first ever games of 40k, back in 5th edition this was, back when sweeping advances were a thing. I had 20 Crute charge my 2-man squad of Death Copters and bounce and get sweeping advanced, even though Ultra Initiative 2. Right, now I know why everyone says don't charge with Tau. Now I understand.
Yes. Though it is a dramatic moment of the game if you do it. And if you've got Farsight map, then you probably should.
Yeah, I am the Farsight player.
Man.
Yeah. Right, Rem? Silent King.
Yeah, so how many of you have managed to pick up this month's issue of White Dwarf?
I'm going tomorrow, sadly, but I know exactly what you're referring to.
I have not yet. Tell us all.
Right, so basically this article about the Silent King, there seems to be this one little story bit that kind of seems to imply that the Silent King was responsible for the creation of the Nids. Now, this is a conversation between an Inquisitor and an Eldari Harlequin, so, it's very prosaic and very allegorical, so, take it with a pinch of salt.
And take it with another pinch of salt because it's a Harlequin.
Exactly, but I'll just read the quote from verbatim. Regardless, behold, there was once a lord harbouring such a lust for power that evil itself coalesced around him into fell beings that were mirror shades of his ambition. His timeless hate was driven into everything he encountered, even his own people. Yet it was in life's light that his enmity truly blossomed. Not content with driving it from his own kingdom, he sought to exercise life from the wider world. In secret he moved beyond the horizons of the world for an age, and there he bred horrors of infinite hunger. Finally pleased with their form, he showed them the shining light of the world and unleashed them upon it, where they moved from kingdom to kingdom, devouring everything. Bereft of life, his own kingdom safe, and he laughs while all others weep in grief.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very, very prosaic, as Oculus coined it, but interesting if true.
Yeah, so to break that down into not Eldar speak, in essence, the Silent King, which it must be referring to because this is who the article is about, has a hatred for life, which we know the Necrontyr had, and he enforced it upon his own people, admittedly by accident, if you believe the current canon, in the creation of the Necrons. All life was extinguished from them, they became undead, soulless killing machines. He then sought to extinguish all life in the galaxy, that could be the war in heaven, but he failed. And so he went beyond the galaxy, which we know he did, and bred monsters of infinite hunger, which is a clear, well, certainly possible reference to the Tyranids themselves, shaped them, showed them the light of the galaxy, which could be taken to be the Pharos beacon when it blew up.
Which was Necron tech. It was revealed in the Guy Haley novel for Belisarius Call.
Quite. And showed them the light of the galaxy, set them loose to let them eat everything and wipe all life from the Milky Way. There is an issue here. Just one. That is that the Silent King, since his return, has been trying to unite the galaxy against the Tyranids.
Yeah, there's this other passage in here that, not from a story, that's purely narrating. That says, Jarek had harboured a hope that the Necrons could return to bodies of flesh and blood, but if the Nids consumed the galaxy's biomass, that apotheosis might never happen. His duty was clear. He had no interest in preserving other civilizations. Their armies and cultures he would happily see swept aside, but he would protect their biological integrity and do everything he could to ensure that the Necrons harvested for their own ascension.
Yeah, so it seems as though Cesarek, sometime in the last 60 million years, if everything we read is taken at face value,
you can't really take it at face value.
No, but let's do it for the sake of creating a point. The Silent King loses the war in heaven-ish. Really, he wins it, but the Necrons are too weak to survive the rise of the Eldari. So they go into stasis, and he's bitter about it. Bitter at having lost his race and wiped out the life of his race and having to do that. Bitter about not being able to finish the job and wipe the galaxy clean. So the best thing he can do, now that he's left the Necrons behind and cut the command protocols, is to create a new race to do it for him. He does this. He creates the Tyranids. It takes him a long time. Fast forward to M30-ish, and the Pharos beacon either goes off because of him fiddling with it in terms of like influencing events from afar, or it just goes off. And Cesarek says, right, Norn Queen, or whoever leads the hive mind, go that way. And he sends them off in that direction, possibly having unleashed them on another galaxy first to make sure that they're any good. Sends them in, then realizes,
they're a bit too good.
They're a bit too good, and they're eating everything. And I wanted a biotransference when this was done. I wanted the galaxy wiped clean of everything so that the Necrons could rise and revert to their old biological ways. But to do that, you need some biological material to transfer into. That leaves two options. One, kill the Tyranids, wipe them out and use their biomass to reseed the galaxy with life so you can create a biotransference, which is nigh on impossible because the Necrons are not strong enough to beat the Tyranids on their own and he knows it. And, or two, make sure the Tyranids actually lose. Kill enough of the galaxy that the won't be able to resist the Necrons when they eventually turn on them, but leave enough alive to create the biotransference process so that the Necron tier, or whatever, the Necron tier in Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, can rise, take dominance over the galaxy, everybody's happy, win-win.
Yeah.
That's if we take it, that's at face value. That's not reading into anything.
No, of course. There's obviously, this is very, very open to interpretation. I think that goes without saying at this point.
Yeah.
It just seems... I don't know, it just seems very contradictory at times to suggest that, oh, I need to try and stop the Nids, but at the same time, it's my fault for making them in the first place, even though you could say they just ran out of control.
It is a classic mad scientist trope for the creations to run amok.
You'd think that he would have learned from, the old one's mistake with the Krork, and actually, put in an off switch.
Yeah. Plus, if you're going to create a hive mind, why not, as a machine, install yourself into that hive mind so that you re-establish the command protocols, you can call them off whenever you want?
Oh, maybe it's creator's arrogance kind of thing, Maybe he thinks, now this creation's perfect, everything's going to go fine. But the Tyranids are so adaptable, evolutionary, maybe it's just they very quickly are out of control. Yeah, I had a plan, but, I think it would be very... thematic for such a mighty, powerful thing to I'm completely infallible, but actually, And
we know the Necrontyr were very hubristic. That's not you know what I mean?
I just had a thought. Since the Pharos beacon was powered by a Catan shard, what if he actually did create the hive mind by also using a Catan shard?
Are you implying the hive mind is a Catan?
I mean, there is a Catan called the Endless Swarm. There is also the Outsider.
What's the... No, that's the town name. Anyone matter. Okay. In which case,
I mean, either of them would be, thematically appropriate for the Nids, considering, they're both outside of the galaxy and are an endless swarm.
and it is not unheard of for Catan to break their enslavement and run amok. That is exceptionally not unheard of.
Hello, Deceiver.
Hello, Nightbringer.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Dr. Nick.
So, right. So let's run some numbers. The odds of the Silent King just creating the Tyranids and pointing them in a direction seems exceptionally unlikely. His hubris is ridiculous, but he's realized what happens when you don't actually stop and think, because he's responsible for the creation of the Necrons, and he's not exactly keen on that fact. So it seems unlikely that he's got that much hubris, especially because since he's returned, he's been willing to work tenuously with other parties. It seems unlikely to me that he built the Tyranids and sent them off in a direction and just left them to it and assumed they would kill enough and then die off. I find that unlikely.
Mm.
But him having a hand in their creation, and as you suggest, maybe using the power of the Catan to do it, I think is very, very feasible, because the Catan, if they had a problem, is that they couldn't create any life. And it makes sense that if the Tyranids take all the biomass to sustain themselves, well, where do the souls go? If you've got a hive mind in the shadow in the warp, which we know is there, what if that is the Catan remorphed? Although the only problem is the Catan don't have psychic ability, so why does the shadow in the warp exist? We'll get to that in a minute, I think.
Isn't the shadow in the warp just caused literally because there's so many minds in communication at once, it's just creating psychic white noise?
I guess it is, though that would have to be an unintended side effect, because the Silent King and the Catan, neither of those species, the Necrons or the Catan, were psychic.
No.
But it's possible maybe that the shadow in the warp has been engineered, maybe during the testing on another galaxy, to absorb the souls that were taken during the Tyranid Wars, so that they would be able to keep the Catan powerful. So the Tyranids survive through consumption, and the hive mind does as well. That's why it's so dangerous for Psykers to touch it, because, well, it would drive them mad just listening to all those voices in their head, but it also puts their soul in mortal peril. Maybe.
I mean, he could have conducted some studies on some psychic species he captured or whatever he encountered, like, a few Eldari here and there he might have taken prisoner, because we know that Necron tech is capable of containing warp entities, because there's an instance in Sons of the Hydra where within a Tesseract vault, there is a Bloodthirster. Yeah,
and we know about the Gloom prisms as well that give psychic defense that you used to find on the Canoptech spiders.
Yeah. So he could have learned about, the Shadow and the Warp, but just doing experiments on a bunch of Eldar minds and going, hey, ooh.
And it's possible he also learned from the Krogs, who have who have the War field as well, which we know to be a thing from the War of the Beast.
So basically the hive mind could just be an evolved form of, the War.
The War. The more we talk about this, the less ridiculous it all sounds. Because everyone saw this
thing. Because this all crap is actually plausible now.
Yeah, because everyone saw this article. It got kind of leaked or previewed by the people who got it on pre-order, and we looked at it and thought, no. And then you actually stop and rationalize it. And you think, actually, hang on, what if X, Y, Z? And suddenly it's like, that might actually work. The only question I sort of have is, where did the Silent King get the biomass to build the Tyranids from?
Outside of the galaxy.
There's nothing there. That's the point.
That we know of. Actually, no, that's not necessarily true, because one thing we did learn from an older piece of lore, there was an old bit of lore where the Adeptus Mechanicus recovered a very old Terran probe, from the 21st century, and they decoded all the things it recorded. And all they found was orcs. From outside the galaxy, there's nothing but orcs, apparently.
That wouldn't shock me. So possibly Silent King uses super advanced Catan powers, obliterates the Krogs because he's done it a jillion times in the War in Heaven, and harvests that, reshapes it countless times, Fabius Bile style, until he's happy with what it looks like. That communion then creates a psychic resonance that we now know is the hive mind, the shadow, and the warp. He then installs some measure of command over it, or uses the Catan and installs that as sort of the locus of it all, and then sort of he's probably got a bit lost because he's been out fighting for probably thousands, millions of years. He's a bit lost, and then the Pharos beacon goes off. Is that that's the galaxy. I know that. I've had that put there before I left when I sealed the Catan shards. That's X. That's the beacon. We're going that way. We're going home. To which point the Catan then realizes, hello, food, and just runs off ahead. And the Silent King's like, wait! And he can't control it anymore because the Catan's gone rogue. He's like, right, okay, this is now going to be a problem because I have no control over this Catan anymore. I have no control over the Tyranids. They are going to do some horrid things to the galaxy. Ergo, I need to keep something alive because I still want biotransference. And there's been nothing out in the galaxy that I can find in the void. So I need to get back there, get the Necrons back up again so that we can keep the Tyranids at bay long enough to defeat them just enough so that the Necrons can then conquer everybody else, wipe the Tyranids out, biotransference, everybody's happy, Necrons win.
Which explains why apparently he managed to get hold of and talk to Sanguinius at some point during the Horus Heresy.
You're going to have to run that one past me again?
So basically in the story, Word of the Silent King, the Silent King basically informs Commander Dante that because the Silent King's wearing a golden death mask of Sanguinius, and apparently it was created in Sanguinius' honour because the Silent King actually met Sanguinius and spoke to him and tried to, propose an alliance against an incoming threat. It's all coming together.
And do you know what? We have to trace this back, and I know the community is going to get mad at me for saying this. This is a Matt Ward creation because Matt Ward is the one who proposed the Silent King Dante way back. The prophecy of the Ward is coming
I can hear
through.
the people typing in the comments right now.
The comments are now about to roast, daring to say that. But
I mean, it's not like we said, the most important thing in 40k lore was proposed by C.S. Goto.
I suppose. But yeah, well, that was a discussion. So apparently it seems as though the Silent King made and then lost. So by our rationale, the Silent King made, using a Catan shard as the hive mind, the Tyranids, shaped them using the bodies of Crocs and remade them into new forms, then unleashed them as a test run, lost control, the Pharos beacon went off and it was a race back home.
I can see that happening.
It's all coming together.
In fairness, I did kind of prefer the original idea of just, the Nids being evolution that's just gone out of control and at its most extreme.
I mean, they still are.
No, I mean, like a naturally occurring species. Just
right,
evolved
yes.
out of control. I always preferred that because, it wasn't complicated. It was just like simple, a bit out there, but still somewhat plausible. I know a lot of people preferred the whole, they were created by the old ones. I was never keen on that theory personally. But I can see why some people were a fan of that theory.
Yeah, I prefer them to be something completely separate. I think it adds to the sort of Eldritch.
Oh, yeah.
And being outside completely and functioning in a completely different way to anything that stuff in this galaxy would. It makes them kind of unknowable.
Yeah, and I don't say it takes anything away from the Tyranids because they're still ridiculously dangerous and they're still ungodly powerful, regardless of who or what made them. And their evolutionary skills are entirely their own. Like, they've developed that from the endless consumption trail they've been on. But I know what you mean about if they were just the horror from the great beyond rather than the engineered revenge of 60 million years of salt. I know what you mean.
But speaking of White Dwarf, something that came out recently that just kind of dropped out of nowhere because it was never actually announced was the White Dwarf Apocrypha book. Now, it's based in the same style of the old Index Astartes, Index Chaotica, Index Imperialis books that GW put out a while ago. And it's just a whole bunch of really old White Dwarf articles. Well, I say really old, it's something like 2017, but yeah, I mean, there's some really interesting stuff, like the very first article about Space Hulk, from first edition, where the Blood Angels are calling themselves the Angels of Retribution. As in, Angels of Retribution in caps. So it's like a name. But it's also got like the third edition rules for the Last Chances in here with all their special rules in here, which is very nice touch. It's like, I remember this.
I remember that. Yeah. Good times.
Good times.
I think it's nice stuff like that. I think there's an odd. It kind of makes me think of the old Hammer community. I think it's like whatever you get into the hobby as, when that happens, I think you sort of form a real strong emotional bonds to that time.
Yeah.
And I find it really interesting to think there are people now who will have that feeling about Primaris Marines.
Yeah, there'll be a community of gamers who've never experienced Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah. I was having no idea, like, what, they're on squares. That's weird. Yeah. I wonder. It makes me wonder what the old world will look like when that comes around.
Yeah, I get the feeling that your Bretonians, if they're still there, are just sat on the shelf. Can 2023 come around, please? I want to be played again. Please don't turn me into flesh eater courts.
And then it turns out they're all rebased on the old Gorka Morka bases. The weird oval shaped ones.
Yeah, so the Mile Breeze. Yeah. No.
Oh, and this book also has that, that fake advert from the Gorka Morka issue of White Dwarf, they should have used Super Grippo tyres. It's like, oh, nostalgia. Because I'm old and I remember all the way back to White Dwarf issue 200.
I think mine was issue 3.
199, sorry.
199. Wow.
Yeah,
One that had Chaos Codex on the cover.
Yeah, mine was the first issue of 5th edition, which was, I think, issue 357.
Wow. I can't really remember what my first one was. I do remember the front cover had a heart. I think it was when the 4th edition fantasy book for High Elves came out.
That's going back.
I think, but I didn't really pay much attention to Warhammer Fantasy back then. I was a 40k player, through and through.
Yeah, fair.
Oh, fun fact, apparently in the first edition of Space Hulk, there was exactly 50,000 Gene Stealers on the Space Hulk.
Exactly,
yeah.
Yeah. What are the odds? Well.
That's an impressive old specs.
Back with the old classic edition 1.5 art style.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. I like that sort of artwork.
And back when all the plastic models were blue.
Yeah, they were, weren't they? Blue plastic and the heavy flamer kind of clipped over the Stormbolt.
Yes.
Do you guys ever play the video game, the Vengeance of the Blood Angels video game, I suppose?
Oh, I've got that on my Sega Saturn.
Oh, you still got it? Oh, you lucky devil. That was a great game. I remember playing that when I get home from school.
Great game that was.
Yeah.
I think my first video game for Warhammer was Dark Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
And then Space Marine basically was just like the best thing since sliced bread.
Oh, yes. Space Marine was loads of fun. There's a bit where it kind of locks you in a certain area, but you're given a thunder hammer and a jump pack. And it's like, have fun for 10 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a shame with everything that happened with THQ that we never got Space Marine 2. It is a real shame.
Yeah.
It is. Who knows? You never say never. Someone might pick up the license to it.
Possibly.
It's just a shame that we're probably never going to get Dawn of War 4 with how badly 3 did.
Yeah, 3 wasn't quite DOA, but it was pretty dead soon after, sadly.
To the point where they cancelled the Necron DLC for it.
Oh, I didn't even know there was some for it.
Well, that's the thing, there wasn't because they cancelled it.
Yeah, apparently they started development for it, and then because sales were so poor, they're like, screw it, just cancel it. Not worth it.
Right, just don't put the time in.
So
they
just focused on skins for like heroes and stuff, which actually made Diomedes the very first character to actually undergo the Primaris upgrade. He had the Primaris Chaplain skin. So he underwent it before Gilliman, not before Calgar, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Then Gilliman himself undergoes a Primaris upgrade. He's like, I'm a Primaris Primarch now. I'm a Primarchus.
Sorry, Primarchus. I like that.
That's bad. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, he's about the size of a Warhound Titan now.
Yeah, give it a few additions, there'll be action.
Yeah. But he still can't stand on Angron because he just catches his foot, same as he did back on New Seria.
Yeah, hold him up. Just like a Titan.
Yeah, Angron did that.
Imperial Knights in combat. You use them like nunchucks.
Oi.
He has the power of God and anime on his side. Sorry.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Such powers, how could you lose?
Exactly.
Now, a 40k anime, that'd be interesting.
Oh yeah, wasn't there one tease with that when they teased those 40k animations, Warhammer animations, and there was like an anime themed one that seemed to be based on one of the ADB Night Lord stories. Because you had like First Claw there, you had like Talos, and you had like a Kalidas assassin.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it might have been based on Throne of Lies.
Yeah, because that sounds like it could have been in Shen.
Not Shen. Chisara from Throne of Lies.
Ah, sorry.
It's just
Right, I hear Kalidas and I hear Night Lords and I go straight to it. Sorry.
Chisara was the one that, after Talos excruciated her, gave the Night Lords a location of a Kalidas temple that was stripped completely bare but had one holographic recording of Comrade Kurz's last moments.
Oh, yes, that's it.
And all the Night Lords were like going, "Oh my god, it's Dad!" Yeah, this was before the Exalted ended up, blowing up with a ship. But hey, it's not spoilers that the book is like, nearly 10 years old.
Yeah, that's fair. Have you actually had a chance to read anything over the last couple of weeks? I know we've sort of been...
I'm still getting through the Cal Jericho novel, which is, absolutely beastly. But
Yeah,
it's at the point that story now where pretty much every single Forge World bounty hunter has turned up. Literally every single one. Like you got Umbra Yar, Grendel Grendelson, Gore Halfhorn, Belladonna, Bertram. They've all just turned up now.
It's a small hive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that one line. It's like, "Hello, Grendelson, still short-tempered. Was that a crack about me height?" It's like, "Why, did it go over your head?" Oh!
Shocking. Simple, but effective.
There's one bit with a redemptionist and just points at Grendelson and goes, "What is that?" And it just says, like, Grendelson replied with an obscene gesture. I assume this is shortly before Grendelson glassed him in the back of the head or something. But you know what squats are like.
Usually if you throw the middle finger at someone, you hit them with a Stone Cold Stunner straight after.
Is it called the Stone Cold Stun anymore? Because Kevin Owens is using it as well now, but hey.
Yeah, but he doesn't do the middle fingers, so...
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. As for me, I finished it before the last podcast went out, but I finished Court of the Blind King, the Adnet Deepkin novel. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. What a read. Yeah, I'm going to read it again, but wow. Geimer, you smashed it.
Yeah, from what I've gathered, Geimer he writes incredible AOS novels. It's a shame his 40k stuff's a little bit more lackluster.
Everything I've read of his from Sigmar, whether it's Ideneth, Stormcast, whatever, every piece of Geimer Sigmar that I've read is brilliant. All of it. So I can't speak to the 40k stuff. I know about the Ferrous Manus meme, but...
Eating sand, yeah.
Yes, quite. And I know, obviously, the Lionel Johnson novel is his as well, so wait and see on that one.
Yeah, we're still trying to find out when the limited edition that's coming out, because we know when the standard edition's coming out. So I assume it must be within the next couple of weeks, I would assume. If the other novels were anything to go by.
It probably won't be long.
But yeah. I'll be looking forward to reading through Sons of the Selenite when it comes out.
Yeah, obviously, because it's Graham McNeil.
Well, it's not just that. It's that apparently there's some hidden secret on Luna, apparently. So it's like, what is this secret?
The Luna Fortress, like where the Silent Sister was, there'll be all sorts of stuff there.
At this point, Luna's been taken over by the Traitor Legions.
The Gene Cults?
Yeah, Sons of Horus have already taken over those.
Yes, they have. They took those in...
Solar War.
Solar War, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting to see what they find, apparently. Ooh. Turns out it's a contingent of Thunder Warriors kept in reserve or something. I don't know.
Chaos Thunder Warriors.
Turns out they're a bunch of Stormcast Eternals that are cross-dimension hopping or something. They are Thunder Warriors in golden armor and wielding giant hammers. Hang on.
Wait a minute. Well, then that could mean that the core of the Space Marines was the Stormcast.
Sigmar is one of the lost Primarchs confirmed.
Dun, 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 it's been confirmed.
Like, I'm all for the scheme and making a phone call to the Eldar during the gathering at the end time. But there's a line.
Only a line if you want it to be one.
Like Aldor Drago showing up and saying, "Hey, I can see Sigmar from here." Which happened.
The end times were weird.
No, this is from a short story.
There's that really odd sequence, isn't there, where they go into Nurgle's garden and it's like everything crosses over and goes strange.
It's like, who is this giant knight in silver armor that can shoot blue fire out of his hands? Hi, Internet! Do you have oranges?
Yeah, that was a very strange sequence, that was. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if the two are connected. I don't think they're supposed to be anymore, not at all. I think if they were, it was always kind of like a teasing joke, sort of.
There was actually a thing from an issue of White Dwarf in June 2018 where they actually said like they're separate universes, but the warp connects them both.
Yeah, because it's the same Chaos Gods.
Like I actually have the where is it?
It was one of the Ascron Brindar questions, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I have a screenshot of the entire thing. If you wish to read through it, Mr. Rhodes, so you can get your answer.
Oh, I see. Grombrindle. Hello.
Yes, back when in his Space Marine armor.
Oh, yes. Yeah, when he's armed up as a Crimson Fist. I remember.
Well, like the Crimson Liver at this point, but hey.
I see. All right. So, yeah, interesting how they're sort of like loosely tied together, is.
Yeah, they also like did it in the Liber Celtica as well.
Yes. Oh, I remember those. Yeah, where he's having all the.
Yeah, that is a classic.
These, and he's got the scribblings in it, like that's 1,000 sun. I know that's 1,000 sun.
Yes, and he talks about like, the most powerful of Tzeentch's servants is called Magnus, and he has 1,000 sons.
Yes.
It's like subtle, that ain't.
Would you like a reference? Here's a reference. We're going to shove this reference until you get the reference. Stop it.
I just loved it in the book about Slanesh where they were talking about the fall of the Eldari Empire, just saying like, this ancient race known as the Elders. It's like,
It's like having a sort of a hologram conversation on in space, and just to make sure you know who's calling to turn the lights on, just so you're absolutely certain, and then play the theme song as well, just to make sure you know.
I also like how they refer to Abaddon in this, because they would talk about all the 13 Black Crusades, but the leader of them is called the Abandoned One. I was like, that's a nice little title. I like that name.
That's a good one, isn't it? I like that. Yeah. That's a fun play on words.
Yes. I was so happy the fact that book got re-released, because I could actually retire my very old, very wibbly hardback version. I was like coming apart the spine. It's like, you may rest now. We have a new version that can take all the punishment now. Just like with the Sabbat Worlds Crusade, which makes me wonder, can we get Xenology next?
Oh, that would be nice.
A nice hardback version of that. Yes, please. Though, considering that was written by Simon Spurrier, I don't know if they'll be willing to do that, considering things, allegedly.
Yeah, I remember that book. That was fascinating, wasn't it? That was diagrams of the various aliens and things, wasn't it?
Yeah, the ethereal dissection where they can't work out how on earth they get it out.
Yeah.
Why it has toes instead of hooves. So my own personal headcanon for that one is like, because this is a female ethereal, and we've actually seen no models of a female ethereal, that toes are just a characteristic of sexual dimorphism between the two. That's my argument with the ethereals. That's the only thing where it can make sense. It's sexual dimorphism between male and female ethereals. Males have hooves, females have toes, for some reason.
For some reason.
Yeah, that was an amazing book, wasn't it? There was a real treasure trove of books. I remember those.
Oh, yeah.
We had an hour store. It was kind of this little black library section tucked at the back with all these really interesting volumes. It was fun to look through those.
Yeah, I really hope that Black Library release more of those, or re-release more of them rather.
Because I think there's so much depth to things, don't they? So much life to it. It's little nitty-gritty details that just make it a believable thing.
Because I also have a copy of like the original 13th Black Crusade source book, like the one from 3rd edition. That's like written like a big war diary kind of thing. Yeah, it's so interesting to see how different things have gone from that edition to like 7th edition with Gathering Storm.
Yes, yeah, it's funny seeing things develop. I mean, it was similar with the End Times because they kind of followed the Storm of Chaos, which was when was that? That was at the end of 6th edition, I think. Mid 7th edition. It was around then anyway, and that expansion book, the story, and then there was a big summer campaign as to whether the Empire Middenheim would get destroyed by Chaos, and it didn't, and then Grimgor Ironhide came along and beat up Archaon and stuff because it actually won. The End Times felt like a real kind of retelling of those events, but sort of, in a much hardcore, dark way. There was a book I always found really interesting, like Battles of the Empire. You ever hear about this one?
I've heard of it.
And it was so my friend, and it's just like a history book of all these great battles over the last 1,000 years of the Empire, and it pictures them all as in very real battles. So that has like little details like organizing the supplies and paying off the enemy troops and all this kind of thing. It feels very sort of real world, like War of the Roses kind of real world, politicking amongst all these different factions. That was a fantastic book. It was mostly humans inside it, so I can see why it's kind of it doesn't have all these fantastical, crazy things. I mean, there were some orcs, but that was about it. So it's certainly not the kind of modern Age of Sigmar in any way. But I always found it really interesting. It felt like it was talking about real events.
Actually, that was really interesting. Actually,
it was really good. It's really good. It had one of them. I can't remember which elector it was. It was a lady who was an elector, and there was a neighbouring state thought it could then seize power because she'd be weak. But she, if I remember right, her army was smaller, but she really cleverly played the political game and the terrain and things. And it's kind of like a grand. It read like how Alexander the Great defeated larger armies than him. Turned out to do all these really clever tactical plays. Yeah. That's one I'd like to see republished. I'd definitely snap that up in an instant.
Fair enough.
Right. I've completely lost my train of thought now.
Sorry.
No. It was more than worth it to have that discussion. I've now completely lost my train of thought.
Something Tau. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Tau. Ugh.
You can't see, but I'm side-eyeing the microphone right.
Well, they don't charge stuff.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that's right. You heard me. Well, Farsight does.
In fairness, there is Alan Shee, who is badass.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, what do you think of the new model for Archie? Oh, Archie. I'm thinking
Shadow Sun,
yeah.
Was it Alan Shee got a new model?
No, Shadow Sun. I very briefly addressed her at the top of the show. Really much improved miniature because the old one was just a bit small and static. I like the design
at the time it came out, certainly, but
definitely, but it's not aged as well as say Farsight has.
Yes.
Much improved. Definitely not sure why it has 4 arms, but there we go. It's interesting that they've given her a Guardian drone, which means that she'll have an invulnerable save while she's near it, which is nice. Much prefer the helmed version to not, because I think her hair's too long. It's so long it becomes silly. Whereas the helmet kind of looks like a baby ghost keel, which is nice because her old suit looked like a baby ghost keel before there was such a thing as the ghost keel. So that's a good touch.
She got the half helmet face as well.
Yeah, that looks really derpy in my personal opinion. Because you still have the massive long hair and you still have to deal with the face, but you just have a big block of metal over the eyes.
I mean, in fairness, Michael, you could always give her a haircut.
I mean, I play Farsight anyway. I'm not legally allowed to take her. So it doesn't matter what I think. The main thing I'm interested in is what are they going to do for the Tau rule-wise? Are they going to be affected by the Psychic Awakening? Are they going to gain new tenets? Are they going to gain new strategies based around Psychers, I don't know, and I'm very interested to see what it brings. And then, of course, there's Psychic Awakening 6, which whenever that comes around, Saga of the Beast, which, of course, is going to be orcs. Yes, I bloody well think so.
And Spaceballs.
Yeah, who cares?
I can hear the howling in the background.
Yeah, I feel like Sniper's just unfriended me.
No, she's standing right behind you, about to force feed you a Battenberg.
Inside jokes.
I think I see what you mean about the hair for Shadowsun. For me, I'd be wondering, I'd be scared of the hair getting sucked into an engine intake, But I always think the battle suits, they just look better with the helmet, the head enclosed.
But the one thing I would say for battle suits, can they have fatter ankles, please? Because my Riptide snapped off its ankles about 4 times.
Oh yeah. I know what you mean. I had plenty of crisis breaking at the ankles. Yeah.
I mean, it could be worse. It could be with Celestine balancing on, a bunch of parchment.
Okay, yeah, Celestine and the Eidolon are worse, but still. Please. Lady Olinda as well, because I think she's just got a cloak.
Oh, God.
But anyway.
Oh, man. Yeah, I know what you mean when you see these. Yeah, we'd always think that in the photography studio the first time you see one of these things. Oh, okay, we'll do some painting of that. That's an amazing one. And you think to yourself, oh, how do you transport that?
Yeah, I looked at the Eidolon and was like, I want one now, but I'm in France. I'm going to fly that home.
Sorry, one thing I do want to ask, Duncan, is any of those models that have a very, very thin, precariously perched bits, like the Celestine model, were there any that when you started painting, you were actually like, oh God, this is going to break when I paint it?
There were certainly times being worried about that. I mean, you mentioned that was one. The only thing about that is the model shakes. Because it's just got that very thin piece of plastic holding it all together. So it's then trying to keep the thing steady on camera because it just looked rubbish if it's wobbling all over the place. So yeah, the only time something actually got damaged was we were doing the New Age of Sigmar box game, and it's the Bloodstoker, isn't it, or the Whip?
Yeah.
And we were really up against a tight deadline to get that done. So we'd use a hairdryer, of course, to help dry shade paint faster. And so I had the hairdryer on it, and I was talking to my colleague Roger at the time, and stuff, not fully paying attention. Look back, and the plastic had started to melt for the Whip, and so it all drooped. And oh no! So we tried to get it back into position, wasn't working. So we had to cut the hand off and replace it with another one, and then repaint it up to the same stage. That was, as you can imagine, when there was a deadline going on, that was quite a stressful moment.
I can imagine, yeah. And I feel like this is the question you'll probably get asked every time, but if you had to pick favorite model you painted, either for Warhammer TV or not?
So for Warhammer TV, I'd put it in terms of a video. I think the Archaon one, that one was really fun because that was a challenge. It was very intimidating to go into that, and I think it came out really well. For myself, that's such a tough question because there's so many amazing midgets. I love the Warlord Titan for Adeptus Titanicus. I had so much fun painting that. So possibly say that one.
Fair enough.
Really the first time I painted a knight for myself. I really enjoyed that because I could really go into the kind of detail I wanted to. Maybe that. I think the Nurgle things, they were always really good to do because Nurgle's great for getting these really horrible effects on it that are actually quite simple techniques. So I really enjoyed doing that. It's difficult, really. It's like trying to choose your favourite child.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed painting my Bretonnian army back in the day, of course. That was really fun. I got really into that and doing all these conversions for different characters and things. But then, I also had tons of painting. So I got a Caradron Overlord's army, and I had loads of fun painting the frigate on that because it's got such character and life to it. I really got into that. So, yeah, it's difficult. I suppose it depends what time of day you'd ask me. I'd give you a different answer.
Yeah, fair enough. That's more than fair.
Yeah. Well, I find it an interesting thing about it is their own little kind of things that they like most. And not one person is correct about it. So it's always interesting, finding out why people like given things and what it is. Like for you guys, you absolutely love them. and that sounds like it informs a lot of your choices and things that you then present on the battlefield and how you play the games. And that's very much like my friend Nigel. He works a lot like that, and his armies are all really thematic and things. And I know the people who are really hyper competitive, and they all have their own favourite armies to give it for reasons of lore or because they're really good or whatever. I think it's always really nice, like sort of like seeing why people love things the way they do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think. All right. Well, what about you guys? What would you favourite miniature that you've ever painted, owned, or whatever?
Probably my Achillean Queen, because I bought an Achillean King model, and I got home from Games Workshop, and I thought, well, I'm going to leave that now. I was going to put it away, and I left it. And then I looked on my desk, and I saw a Daughters of Cain frame that I'd left lying around, and I saw a Kinnerai head. And then I started doing a little bit of reading, and everything just clicked. And I ran to my drawers, grabbed my glue, grabbed my clippers, grabbed the box, and within 8 hours, I converted and painted it.
Wow.
It was just like, I just had this massive rush, and it was just done. And I love the Adneth range anyway, so it was just like, whoa. It was just a whirlwind of wow.
Do you think they're your favourite Age of Sigmar faction?
Model-wise, absolutely. Lore-wise, ask me in 6 weeks once Teclis has come out. But at the moment, just because of Call to the Blind King, yeah,
I would love to talk to you about whenever the reveal of Teclis and stuff.
I'll tell you what, on Thursday or Friday morning, I'll be working on Friday morning, but Friday evening, I'll get out. And if I remember, I will try and at you, and we can talk about the absolute joy that is going to be that miniature.
Yes, please do, because I'm looking definitely.
I assume you've seen it. I know you're now not working with G-Dubs, but I'm assuming you've seen that miniature.
Oh yes, yeah, I wouldn't want to go and spoil anything. That would be wrong for so many reasons. For so many, it's much better to enjoy the reveal that Warhammer you have planned. I know for certain that you're absolutely going to love it.
Good.
Yeah. Because I do. I can't wait to get into some of that.
Excellent.
But it's best when you see. Like, I'm sure they'll have a grand video that they'll show and stuff. The people who make it, they're really talented people. These things they're meticulously put together. They're reviewed and checked and things. So a lot of work goes into that. You see, that's why spoiler is rubbish, because it ruins all that hard work. And it's
there's almost a conspiracy nowadays that because of the leaks, GW almost leak it themselves because they know what we know that's probably not the case. It was like there must be those revealing it themselves because they always have the article that they're going to do ready within 2 hours after the leak. Bang! Here's the information anyway. And it's just like how, but it's
not planned. It's not planned. No, it is. It is a reactionary thing. Like if that happens, and it's. Yeah, it kind of messes up a whole load of things. It makes the excitement not as exciting as it could be. I think that's how I.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah. So it's very exciting. Yes. Once you see what all this stuff is, you please tweet at me or something like that because I'd love to talk to you about it.
I will try to remember.
Yeah.
All right. What time are we? Oh, blimey.
Flies by, doesn't it, doing these?
Yeah, that's an hour and a half gone. Right.
Well, is there anything that you want to talk to me about? Because I can hang on just for a little while if there's extra things you wanted to ask.
I think I've cleared my primary things I needed to get out quickly. I'm sure the comments will have a giant pile of questions, but I'll see if I can we can screen grab if you maybe just tweet a list and you can answer them on your own time.
Well, I'm happy to be as flexible as I can. I don't like these days, but if you guys if you had loads of questions that you wanted me to answer, I'm happy to come up half an hour and go through stuff with you.
I'll tell you what, make sure in about 6, as they said 88 now, so 22 episodes is 44 weeks. So in about a year's time, there's going to be episode 100.
Oh.
12 episodes, not 22, 12 episodes. So in about 6 months is going to be episode 100. And last time when we did 50, we had a ginormous schmoz of past guests. I can guarantee that if you are around, they will bite their arm off to get a chance to get you on that show. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll be around for that.
Fab.
Yeah.
Awesome. Pardon me. Sorry, my voice seems to be going for some reason. I don't know why.
No, don't worry.
Well, I've got the questions for myself and Remleiz if you need, so that's fine.
Okay, cool. Well, if there's nothing, nothing else you'd like to, you want to ask or anything like that, I better head off and do the other jobs I've got to do tonight. But yeah, I suppose you want to tie off the chat for your show.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, anyway, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure. Hopefully, it wasn't too laborious for yourself either. So, thank you very much.
Certainly not. Folks like you, I find it, like I was saying earlier, it's interesting to see about things. Folks like you are so passionate about this stuff. It's people like yourselves build such a wonderful community. It's remarkable, really. Games Workshop is the way it is because of the people who support it. So it's I mean, not that that's me anymore on my plate. Lots of things, but I just think it's wonderful. I just like sharing this hobby and these toys with people. So it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, Duncan.
I'll see you later.
Take care. Right, so I believe it is time for the questions now, Michael.
Yep. So that concludes. If you're just here for the Duncan in the title, you can now leave. Please don't. We want our CPM, but it's January. We need the CPMs. But no, let's get on to some questions, shall we? Let's start here. With Guilliman being the supreme commander, could he, wipe out the ecclesiarchy if he wanted to and reinstall the imperial truth?
I mean, this is touched on in the Dark Imperium novels. Like, he realizes how fundamentally important the ecclesiarchy kind of is now. Like, he doesn't like the ecclesiarchy. He thinks he kind of, despises it, but he realizes it's like a necessary evil at this point.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. It's like, if you take the ecclesiarchy out, you're going to have a ginormous heresy on your hand. Everyone rises up against you for killing the god emperor and trying to say he's not a god, because there's 10,000 years of indoctrination there. And you've got to deal with the fact that how do you exterminate on every single planet in the Imperium?
You can't. They tried that during the Great Crusade and it kind of
failed.
Well, yeah. Damn you, Lorgar.
Right. Interesting. If Sanguinius had survived long enough to be put in suspended animation a la Guilliman, would Yvraine have picked him instead?
Probably. I mean, I think pretty much everyone has the consensus that out of all the Primarchs, Sanguinius was the best of them, but he was also, probably the most humble as well. It's like, because, when the Emperor was going to pick a War Master, Horus said, pick Sanguinius, don't pick me, pick Sanguinius, he's better than me. And Sanguinius is like, no, I'm too nervous.
But that would have made it really difficult, because I think Yvraine's logic on resing Guilliman wasn't just to give the Imperium a great warrior, it was to give the Imperium a leader. And Sanguinius isn't a politician.
But at the same time, though, it was also the fact that, as the Eldari themselves stated, humanity worships its past. And the Primarchs are a symbol of the past. And because Guilliman is the only Primarch who anyone knew where the hell the bloody well were, it kind of made him being the only choice.
Yeah, I'm just saying that logistically, in terms of navigating the Imperium through the turmoil...
I don't think the Eldari would have bothered in regards to a politician. They would probably pick a inspirational figurehead. And I think as a leader, as a symbol of hope for humanity, Sanguinius would fit that bill a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, the other catch, though, is where Baal is, because the Great Rift was opening/open by the time Guilliman was rezzed, right?
It opened after his resurrection.
But by that logic, then, when Sanguinius would be resurrected in that style, the Great Rift would break out around the same time. So there's a chance that Sanguinius will be stuck the wrong side of it.
Not necessarily, because
I'm just throwing things out there. I'm not saying that. I'm trying to be devil's advocate.
It implied that the Secretrix Benedictum opened up after Guilliman got back to Terra.
Yeah, it seems to conflict whether it was a response to Gilliman or a response to the fall of Cadian. There seems to be conflicting information.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to things Watchers of the Throne, like, it happened just prior to the Second Battle of Terra, which is when all the demons attacked, the Imperial Palace.
Yeah, the Noctis Aeterna broke out afterwards, you're right.
Yeah, and by that point, Gilliman was already on the moon.
Yes, he was, you're right.
That Primarch came from the moon. Sorry.
Where was I?
You could say with Magnus, that wizard came from the moon. But hey.
Right. So that's talking about Chaos Tower. We know that's a thing. Crisis of Faith tells us Chaos Tower is a thing. If the entities in the warp are created by the emotions of mortals, is it a possible scenario for someone to encounter an entity that is created by that individual's emotions? Can a powerful psychic create a demon based on their own emotion and, well, they say have control of it? I find this unlikely because emotion fuels the gods who then make the demons. But
though some demons are also created by very specific acts of intense emotion. Look at Draconian, created through the very first human act of murder.
Yes. So
there's bound... And it depends on the emotion, I suppose, or the act in general. I mean, because we know that specific acts can create powerful demons. As for them meeting the creator, it seems to be implied in regards to Draconian that it took pretty much 30,000 years for Draconian to fully form, because it had the moment, and then he manifested, during the Horus Heresy. That's when he manifested.
Though even then, the demons feared Draconian. Even then,
because they knew he was going to be powerful. It was like, oh shit, here come that boy, kind of thing.
Quite. Though the whole TTS quote of everyone having their own personal, it is a really cool idea of someone having to literally face their own demons. Literally. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but it is a cool idea.
Yeah.
Right, where was I? That's about the Lost Legion. That's about doing a live show. We don't have the tech to do a live stream. My internet is too rubbish. And I mean, you have streamed before, but
I tried live streaming Storm of Vengeance, a really crappy lane thing. My computer couldn't handle that.
Yeah, my computer can barely. My internet is too weak to handle just a me sit and talk stream, and my OBS is not able to stream audio through it, so it can only pick up my audio, not anybody else's. Really stupid.
The previous live streams I tried, that was when I was living at my other place. So
yeah, and when we did that live show way back, that was on Alexis's channel. So
yeah,
if you want to see us do something live, it would be things like the show we did with Alexis when we went on her show.
Or we could ask, Scarlett to stream it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, a podcast.
Radio comment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we haven't been on Walks on Radio together, so maybe the next time when we do it live, that would work. Right, where was I? That's talking about Dawn being Schrodinger's Primarch.
I love that I've coined that term because everyone seems to be using it so well.
They're not using it, but they're referring to it in the way that's like, yeah, that is about that. They're not calling it that, but that's what it is. So, this is about Phoenix Rising. Have you read this?
Bits and pieces.
Okay, so I know what this is about. So Drazhar dies to Jane Zar in Phoenix Rising. And we see later that an incubus goes up to the armor and seems to be possessed by Drazhar and becomes Drazhar. So are we on the train of Drazhar is Aha now, or do we think that there'll be another incubi basically adopting the mantle of Drazhar, who was this silent killer anyway, just saying, yeah, this is Drazhar's armor, therefore I am Drazhar now, even if I don't have Drazhar's soul inside me?
Yeah, I think it's more akin to, the whole Phoenix Law concept, like, I'm putting on a Surman's armor, therefore I am now a Surman, kind of thing. Because a Surman's personality has taken over my mind.
Which would imply that implies Drazhar's a Phoenix Lord.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily him being Ahra, because there's always the possibility that since Ahra went to Gamora and founded, the Incubi Shrine, there's always a possibility he could have established his own Dark Phoenixes, as it were.
Yes, but why wouldn't he make it himself?
Probably could. I don't know. Not convenient.
Yeah,
it's probably the same way why the same way why Asurman didn't found the Banshee Shrine or didn't found the Striking Scorpion Shrine. He found individuals, he trained them, he gave them, the armor to, make them the Phoenix Lord armor, as it were. Because I don't know. I mean, there doesn't necessarily need to be a reason for this, in regards to why he didn't do it himself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like the idea of Drazhar being Ahra, but I'm...
The thing is, though, the codices have already kind of confirmed that he can't be Ahra, because, Karandras fought Ahra in, M41, long after Drazhar turned up. Because the latest Drazhar could have turned up, if you use the timeline of the Path of the Dark Eldar novels, the latest he could have turned up is M38.
Right.
The latest. And since Ahra's around M41...
Unlikely, I follow.
Yeah. And considering it's not like saying Karandras is fighting a shadowy Phoenix Lord. No, they mention Ahra specifically by name.
Twice or 3 times, I think.
Yeah. So, it kind of like, if they are the same person, then someone's been very fucking sloppy in regards to editing.
But let's be fair here. 40K's timeline got so wonky that they removed all dates from future codices.
Yeah, that's true.
The timeline got that wonky that they scrapped it.
But again, this was not only mentioned in the 8th edition codex, it was mentioned in the 7th edition codex as well.
Which had a timeline, yes.
Yes.
I think I'd like Drazhar to be Ahra, or Drazhar to be the Phoenix Lord of the Incubi, even if Ahra's still around and is not the Phoenix Lord of the Incubi, or whatever you call the equivalent of a Phoenix Lord, but also dark. I don't know. I like the idea of Drazhar being like Phoenix Lord-esque.
Oh yeah.
But it's just as easy to assume this Incubus is a ridiculous fighter. Like the best fighter is sort of finds the armor, puts it on, assumes the mantle of Drazhar, even though it's not Drazhar's soul. I'm still okay with that.
That's also possible.
Yeah, because since Drazhar doesn't speak, it's like no one would ever know.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. Right. One more Psychic Awakening question then. Any predictions for what Psychic Awakening is leading to? Each book has been hinting that something big is coming to the galaxy. What is Psychic Awakening's end goal? Is it just a series of vignettes and done? Or is there something at the end of it?
I don't actually know if there's going to be anything at the end of it, because that's the thing with GW and hyping. Sometimes they hype things up so much and then it ends up being a damp squid.
Yeah, and the problem is Psychic Awakening happened in the past. This isn't the end of the timeline. The end of the timeline is Vigilus Giant. Vigilus Ablaze. Because the Psychic Awakening, Book 3, takes place just after the devastation of Baal. Dante rebuilds, the Flesh Terrors rebuild, Dante takes his role as regent, calls on the Imperial Navy, and go. That doesn't take 200 years. It doesn't.
Well, this is the Imperium, in fairness.
But still, I feel like Psychic Awakening 3 takes place before Vigilus happens.
It probably does, in fairness.
And the battle for the Startide Nexus has been going on pretty much ever since the Fifth Sphere got through. To the Death Guard. They conquered a few worlds and then the Death Guard. The Tau couldn't hold the Death Guard for centuries. They just can't. It's not their way. So I feel like we're in the past now. So the end point, there might be a blazing increase in Psychers that might create a Storm of Magic-esque expansion where psychic powers run amok. Maybe we see endless spells in the game, or the equivalent of endless spells. I find it unlikely that they'd rip that from Sigmar, but they might. I don't think there is an end goal here. I feel like this is just a catch you up on what's happened in the galaxy since you were last here.
Yeah, that would make sense. Though I would like to see some sort of payoff at the end of it.
Yeah, because
even if it's only just like leading towards the next major campaign a la Vigilus.
Yeah, because the one thing I felt about Psychic Awakening is nothing's happened. Like, there was a fight between some Eldar, some people died, but they all came back to life. Book 2, the battle is ongoing. Book 3, the Blood Angels won a bit, the Tyranids won a bit, the battle is... Book 4, Magnus is going to lose. He just is. Because...
Again.
Again. He's not allowed to win because of the connotations and the implications of what he's trying to do. Book 5, okay, the Tower of Lost Astartes Nexus. That's a plot development.
That is.
But the Death Guard can't get any further than that because then they're into the core worlds of the Tau Empire. And that's an extinction level event. They're not going to do that.
Unless they do something like, the Tau Empire is under threat from the Death Guard. Oh, here come the Enclaves to save the day.
Again.
Yeah,
and that's
because the Enclaves are the only people in the Tau race who are actually any competent.
Yeah, and then we have a repeat of Farsight Ex Machina, but this time Shadowstone's the wrong side of the warp. So it's like, well, that doesn't help. We don't even get any blow off to the Farsight Shadowstone dynamic that was left behind after the burning of Mugalath Bay.
And then
no
they
payoff.
that Alvar as a hologram is like, oh, well, this changes everything. Time for the Taurus Heresy.
Quite. So yeah, I don't see there being an end goal, and I do worry that Psychic Awakening is not going to be remembered. All that's going to be remembered is, oh hey, this is when we got the new Mephiston model. This is when we got the new Shadowstone model. This is when we got the new Gazkul model. The actual events of Psychic Awakening, I feel like they're going to be forgotten.
Yeah, I think the only one that's had any significance at any point really was Phoenix Rising, just purely because, oh shit, Drazza's dead. But even though they're back, it's still something.
Yeah, and Jane's Heart died several times for 5 minutes.
Yeah, again, it's to be expected with Phoenix Law. So she's dead. No, she got better.
Yeah, you've right.
To be fair, I was more impressed by the fact, like, holy shit, Ephrael Stern!
Quite.
Which led to like, hey, guess what, kids? There's going to be a new Ephrael Stern novel! Yay! I was actually legitimately happy about that.
Oh yeah, I know.
And the fact that Demon of Future is going to be republished in full fucking colour.
Happy Remleiz is happy.
Which means we get to see, in full Technicolor, that creepy Slaanesh sex scene. And Michael is wishing he could head desk right about now.
Moving on.
So yes, Ferrus Mass 8 down and catches lasers with his hands. There you go.
Right. Sticking with Tau for a second. In Crisis of Faith, and I'm going to read this verbatim, it was hinted that Farsight has a stronger than average presence in the warp for a Tau. Would you agree with that statement?
I assume they're referring to that scene where he started having those prophetic visions of the future.
I also assume that. But do we consider that a stronger warp presence?
It either means that Farsight is a latent psyker which has precognitive abilities, or it's just caused from his, prolonged exposure to the warp drives of a ship he just damaged.
Yeah, or it could just be that he's just more warp sensitive rather than warp powerful.
Isn't that kind of the same thing, though? Because psykers by default automatically have a stronger presence in the warp.
Yes, but someone who's more can you be sensitive to the warp without being a psyker? And have a variance in sensitivity to the warp without being a psyker?
I suppose it depends if you have a greater psychic potential. Because we know that psychic abilities don't affect everyone equally. Not every psyker is capable of unleashing Force Lightning and screaming unlimited power or anything like that. Because this is touched up on Necromunda in regards to the subject of weirds. Like, there is a surprisingly high number of psychics in the Underhive, but most of them don't actually know they're psychic. They just think they're good at guessing or just lucky.
Yeah, and I think maybe that is the Farsight situation.
Yeah.
I think. So yeah, latent psyker seems the most likely bet. So the follow-up question goes, in Empire of Lies, do you think we'll see Farsight using the warp? Well, no.
No.
But I can see, because Empire of Lies is, I think, where Arthas Moloch's going to happen.
I can possibly foresee them having a scene where he looks back upon those prophetic visions and tries to determine what they meant.
And we know that on Arthas Moloch, he looked back into a warp portal and was shown all manner of horrors, which is what led to his self-imposed exile in the first.
And the fact the Ethereals knew about this shit and they kept it from us. What the fuck, guys?
Yeah, so I feel like what's going to happen is Arthas Moloch will happen, because we know it happens. We get a very brief bit of it in the prologue to Crest of Faith. Arthas Moloch happens. He looks back and the warp stares back at him. He sees, metaphorically, the power of chaos and what it represents. And then he spends his time in his chambers in isolation, meditating on it, and realizes and starts mentally joining the dots and saying, that's what that was about, and this, that, the other. And suddenly it clicks. And he's like, oh my goodness me. Oh, flip. I've got to go. I am far too... I could destabilize the entire greater words out, and that's not acceptable. I have to go lest the Tauva collapse, which is broadly how it works.
Mm. So, yeah.
So, yeah, the answer to the question is no, but I can see the warp playing a very heavy role in the next novel, even if it's not used directly. I think I've just got time for one more.
Yeah, one more, yeah.
Where was it? That's about Pegasus Knights in AOS, not with metal wings, go away. That's about Lost Primarchs, talked about that enough times. Right, this is a bit... No. I'm going to read it because there aren't loads of questions, but I'm going to go with this one. So, in the Psychic Awakening shorts, we see the Thousand Sons taking Psychers Magnus dimension to take care of them and allow them to have thereafter. That does happen. For every 10 that are brought, 9 will survive because Tzeentch, and on we go. However, Magnus is having them pledge loyalty not to Tzeentch, but to Magnus. So this question asks, is Magnus trying to almost betray or subvert Tzeentch by gathering Psychers under his name? Or does it point to something different, or is it just Magnus being a nice guy?
I don't think it's that. I think it's just not... It's not Magnus trying to betray Tzeentch. It's not Magnus being a nice guy. It's Magnus being an arrogant little prick.
Yeah, because if Magnus... Yeah.
There are multiple demon princes who gain new followers and have them pledge allegiance to them, not their patron god. I mean, in the Demon Blood story, there's a demon prince in Nurgle, but has a space and swear allegiance to him, not Nurgle. So, I think it's just, Magnus saying, swear allegiance to me because I am Magnus the Red, I am one of the Primarchs, I am the chosen of Tzeentch. Kind of thing.
Yeah,
rather
and
than just
the other part...
worshipping, devoting themselves to Tzeentch is kind of done by proxy.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it is Magnus has set himself up, and the Thousand Sons have set Magnus up as this savior figure, this individual to free the newly psychic awakened humans from the tyranny of the Imperium. That wouldn't land, I think, as a pitch so well if it was pitched as there is another god beyond the Emperor. That wouldn't stick the same way. So pitching is there is an individual, a man, if you like, who can help you, who will accept you for who you are, is a lot more appealing than go worship someone else. Come here and worship our god instead. That's just not going to stick with the pious Imperials.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. There are a couple of questions. There's one here about the Transformers versus Terminator comic and what you think of it.
I never even knew that was a thing.
Fair enough. Can't answer that then. So yeah, I think we'll call it there because I think we've just run to about, well, after the cutouts for your internet, maybe we'll get a little under 2 hours, but we're in roughly the right place.
Yes. So, thank you very much to everyone who joined in to listen to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you managed to enjoy our time we had with Duncan as well. He was a very nice man, and we hope to have him again soon. So, until next time, this has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And this has been Tactica Imperialis.
And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.